All right, jump into it. Welcome to the forum, October 7th, 2022. And we'll get straight into the recent achievements. So a lot of stuff on the blog this week. So we're considering a restructuring to enhance discoverability, essentially breaking out into buckets of content to allow people to kind of follow a journey of discovering everything that we've produced on the blog thus far. We're also evaluating kind of a why article about our editorial platform. So we take a pretty different approach at levels to producing content. This is not your run-of-the-mill content marketing operation. And that isn't always clear to people, I think. They see a blog, they assume, okay, this is just one of those standard things for a D2C company. And actually, this is one of the core pillars of the company's mission, is to produce educational information, the best educational information about metabolic health. And so there's tons of value locked in there, and we want to make sure that people have an approachable article that explains our rationale there and what we're doing and what the mission is. We're also completing an SEO cleanup, such as to make sure that we get rid of old stale code and stop crawling on deprecated articles and things like that. So big improvement there. And then we're also going to shift to a headless CMS architecture, which is something I am not super familiar with, but essentially breaking out the back end of the content we produce and allowing us to serve it into different platforms in a sort of super agile and modular way. On the IRB side, so there's been a lot of chatter about logistics on the back end for IRB fulfillment and opt-out paths this past week with our partners, and made some big progress. We're super back on track, and this is all good news. So some major improvements to improve cost, fulfillment speed, as well as reducing the burden on the member who is signing up for our IRB. So that's all great. For the past 5 weeks running, we've been at a replacement rate of less than 10%. This is a big improvement over a few weeks back when things were quite a bit higher. I think I attribute that to the new platform that people were getting adjusted to, some of the differences between the platforms. And then we're still running into volume challenges right now on the support side. So with farm assemblage and assemblage last week, we definitely have, continuing to have a lot of inbound support requests, and the team is still doing a stellar job keeping up with that massive volume. On the people ops side, so we've gotten an announcement. Our candidate accepted our offer. So our lead candidate is going to join us. This is huge. Big shout out to Ms. for running a great process. We had well over 100 candidates who came inbound for that role, and pretty amazing. So excited for that one. And then on engineering, upgraded the Prisma backend to version 4, checkout 2.1. So some improvements on the design and explainability of our product shipped. So that's out, but slightly better user experience. We're going to learn a bit on that. And then weight and height and the new day score, which we're now calling, again, V0.1, which is more of a standard deviation variability score, have both released internally. So the team, update your apps, check these functions out, make sure they're pulling properly, give feedback. It's going to be exciting to see how this plays out. And then healthier food choices and recipes, which will be in-app, along with Labs V1.1 presentation and Scoring V2.2 are both currently in work on the inside. Casey showed up on Doctor's Pharmacy this week again. So she's had several appearances. This is the first one with a partner offer live. So we talked about this. There's some essentially exclusive content that is available through Mark Hyman with Casey, and that went live. So we're learning from that. And then Ben Greenfield and Casey's episode goes live this week. The Moonshot and Mindsets ad, which is it's Peter Diamandis' brand new podcast. Those podcasts went live this week, and we are out there in the wild. So we're tracking progress there. And then Huberman and Tim Ferriss spots are live. And lastly, the Honestly podcast discussions continue. So a lot of amazing stuff. Those are huge names, kind of the biggest names in our field, all in one update, which is great. Digital audiences grew 34% in September. This is actually despite a pretty significant reduction in volume of posts this month. So that is a really interesting signal for us in that the quality of our content is clearly improving and making up for quantity, also the virality of the content. So I think we're really nailing the way we go about distributing this stuff. And there's going to be a much increased attention to this as Sonia and Casey are going to be helping to continue to improve our reach across digital channels. So this was an exciting update this month, and looking forward to seeing continued growth there. We had a huge week for IRB signups. This was a 17% increase in overall numbers since the IRB went live, so pretty substantial. And we had a revision completed for the subject-facing material. So, one of the requirements for our IRB is that we keep the materials very up to speed in terms of what our potential participants are experiencing during checkout. So Stati took care of that. Research team is continuing to stay on top of just making sure that the moving parts are all taken care of on the back end, make sure the IRB is well aware of how we're evolving. And lastly, we had some very interesting results, which Azure did a deep dive on. There's a video that you can see the thumbnail for on the apple cider vinegar community experiment. So it showed some, what I thought were really compelling results, in that the benefits of apple cider vinegar are substantially higher for people who have lower time in range. So people who are experiencing more difficult blood sugar control can benefit more from an apple cider vinegar experiment. There's a ton of interpersonal variability, but that seems to be a pretty strong finding. So that's something that we can absolutely introduce into our product, and making sure that when we're releasing these insights, they can be targeted at people who could benefit even more. Let's see, a couple other things here. So some great articles showed up on our blog this month. The month in metabolic health, obviously being a favorite, but we also had a healthy nut butters article, which I love. The first of our sort of women's health content initiative around higher cardiovascular risk is out. And then that conversation with Andrew Hare from Font is live. We had Mark Schatzker and Emily Strong on talking about Alzheimer's and cravings. Great conversations. And then a ton of love for our Levels company culture documents. We're continuing to just be, I think, recognized for both leadership in the culture and company building space, as well as metabolic health. And that's, Twitter is really resonating for us. Some other great UGC here, and huge response to the 7 factors that significantly impact your blood sugar. 23,000 clicks. We made it onto the Google Discover page for this, and that really resonated this week. So, all right, jumping ahead, I want to welcome Melissa McAllister, a partner here at Levels and nutritional therapy practitioner. Melissa, I know you had some really interesting magic moments through your experience with Levels. I would love to just hear generally what you're excited about in the world of metabolic health, what you're paying closest attention to, and your thoughts on your experience with Levels so far.
Yes, thank you. It's funny, I actually moved just a couple of weeks ago from McKinney, Texas to Melissa, Texas. So now I literally own my own city. But I love this because both my son and my husband are both mechanics. And so the world of social media, I think, is wonderful in the fact that they can go to YouTube and they can plug in how to change, a oil filter, or how to, fix a valve. But on the opposite end, I think with us in the nutrition aspect, we have social media where someone will put out a diet that they think works for everybody. And what I have found is from my own personal experience, and then also being able to use Levels with my clients, is they are able to see the difference between maybe a diet plan that they thought was working for this one individual. They give it a try, but to have that CGM on, they get to see that it maybe isn't optimal for them, to where they can kind of play with it. Like you mentioned, the apple cider vinegar, or for them to go for a walk after they have a meal, or meal timing makes a difference, even if the foods are the same. So to me, it's just, it takes that ambiguity of social media, where everybody thinks that this one diet works well because this fit influencer looks amazing, and to be able to customize it to themselves, and to be able to experiment with themselves to see that one thing might work better for them that doesn't work so well for somebody else. So it's really been able to help me help them individualize their nutrition plan.
I love it. And, I think the objectivity of the data is such a unique element here. Like I said, there are all these, people can pull on essentially any thread that could be contradictory to another one that somebody else posts, and having an objective data stream from one's own body is potentially the future of all sort of nutrition influencing, I think, is being able to show data that backs up the claims and the statements. And that's something that, in concrete mechanic terms, you can always try out and see if something is actually going to fix the problem. But this is unique to the human body. I'd love to hear from your own experience, maybe like one of the strongest realizations that you had that maybe was counterintuitive, and then really something, if you could share something that you feel like we need to see in the world of metabolic health in order to improve people's lives. Where are we completely missing, and not just Levels, but just generally speaking, where are we completely missing? And where is the gap in people's intuition or awareness right now?
I think that to be honest, I found you guys initially from your blog. I think you guys are absolutely hitting the mark when it comes to that. Yeah, it's probably the best research that I've ever found. So I know that's not what you're asking, but I think it's really the best out there. As far as missing the mark, I do think that we do tend to fall short when it comes to people understanding that, because a little bit of pushback that I've gotten is there are type 1 diabetics, and there are some professionals out there who think that people like me are misusing CGMs and that they should only be for type 1 diabetics, maybe type 2 diabetics, but not for the common people. And I wholeheartedly disagree with that. I think if you can get a CGM on most people, at least 88% of the population, to really get a grasp on how food is affecting their metabolic health, I think that would be very powerful, because if they're hearing from some people that, this is unnecessary, or this is, this was not designed for somebody like you, they might shy away from getting it. Where I think that if we really make it clear that this is just a really big and powerful step for them understanding their own bodies and getting back to being metabolically healthy, would be great.
Yeah, it's I think that's part of the educational mission that we're on. Accessibility to this technology is a key challenge that we have to overcome, and that means improving the price point and improving the understanding and awareness of why this might be helpful to anyone. We all have a metabolism. We all experience blood sugar control and lack of it to some extent, and so being able to learn about one's own body, in the way that a blood pressure cuff or a weight scale or a heart rate monitor are helpful for people today. This goes one layer deeper. So, Melissa, if there's one feature that you would love for Levels to build that does not exist today in your experience with the product, is there anything that comes to mind?
From personal experience, I have learned here lately, just in the last probably 3 or 4 months, and I don't know if it's something that can be incorporated, but I have learned that my NEAT, by increasing my NEAT on a daily basis, so maybe being able to remind people to take, that 15-minute walk in the morning or after dinner or something, but to move more throughout the day, because I'm a fitness person, so I do my workouts and I work out really hard, but I sit a lot of the rest of the day, and that had a huge impact on the roller coaster ride of blood sugar. Was to be able to just remind myself, if the Levels app could remind you, hey, kind of, I think like the Apple Watch, you've been sitting a while, why don't you get up and take a 10 or 15-minute walk or move a little bit? I think that would be great.
Real-time interventions.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. That's definitely something that the team is thinking a lot about, and I think we'll have some exciting stuff on the roadmap that you will love. Melissa, thank you so much for taking some time to join us on Friday. Our team absolutely loves and could not overvalue these interactions and hearing from you directly. So really, really appreciate it. And if you'd like to stick around, we do have a pretty packed meeting. We'd love to have you join us through the rest of it. But if not, thanks from the whole team.
Okay, thank you guys.
All right, thank you. Okay, jumping ahead, quick culture slide. This one is just all about meetups this week. So Sam, Scott, and Taylor, you can see they're in Seattle doing a fireside session. And then the entire gang out for the Farm Assemblage 2022 in Montana, which looked absolutely amazing. Got some horseback riding. There were some visits up to Glacier and some awesome dinners, which I've been hearing bits and pieces of, and it just sounded like an amazing success. So thanks everyone involved in making that happen logistically, traveling out there and spending time together and getting some deep sync time. Love to see it. Okay, people, process, culture. So I'm going to chat a little bit about confidence is earned this week. And this is we got a memo on this, and it kind of emerged from personal experience and also just watching how the communications culture at Levels has evolved. And so what I want to talk about here, oh yeah, we've got a memo on this. If you haven't read it, definitely recommend doing so. But ultimately, confidence is the foundation of a functional organization. So if you think about a professional sports team, people have to have confidence in one another. They can be exceptionally talented individuals, but if they can't operate together as a high-performing team with confidence in the other individual, you don't actually have success as a possibility. So being that we are a team, not a family, and we are a high-performing one, we have to have high communication and reliability amongst each other in order to have confidence in one another. And the interesting thing about confidence is it can't be assumed. It has to be built and it has to be maintained. So really, in the world of remote and asynchronous work, where nothing is within sight unless it is shared deliberately, confidence sort of atrophies very quickly. So the absence of information is bad information for most people. If I'm trying to execute on something and I am not clear on where the progress is in terms of people who I rely on in order to succeed, I will have low confidence in my own ability to execute. And what that means is now I'm carrying an additional cognitive burden that I have to essentially resolve by seeking out that information. The alternative in our world is that we surface that information proactively and transparently. We take great pride in building confidence in other people. And it doesn't, this can feel sort of like a burden. It can feel like a lack of trust, but that's a fundamentally different thing. And that's what I really want to zoom in on, is that lack of confidence does not mean distrust. It's not suspicion. It's not ill will. It's not a negative evaluation of character. It's the absence of a positive, not the presence of a negative. So if someone is not feeling high confidence, we each should take the responsibility to restore that. And that means seeking out the source. Why is there a lack of confidence here? Is there somewhere where I can be communicating more effectively, more proactively to get this person and other people who may not be as proactive in telling me about this problem to get their confidence back up? So it's an individual responsibility for each of us to take great pride in building the confidence in everyone around us and earning it over time. So what we're looking for here is primarily taking that responsibility on, having short toes. So if somebody comes to you and says, hey, look, I'm feeling low confidence in this project, or I don't know what's going on, can you give me an update? It's not ill will. Again, we have to assume best intent in each other. The objective here is the same. The way to approach it is to increase the cadence of communication, make sure it's more discoverable for the people that need the info. So this can mean uncomfortable degrees of transparent communication, making information available proactively so that people don't have to come and pull it from you. They can go and find it at their leisure, and striving for ways to be very transparent about that. So if I'm just communicating everything that comes up to people, that can put an additional burden on the recipient unless we're clear. So things like saying FYI only, or no action needed, or action requested is a super helpful mechanism to, again, transparently communicate, build that confidence without requiring other people to do added work to interpret it. And then lastly, this can take different sort of approaches. So sometimes we can achieve a high confidence project or interaction without needing to go synchronous. So a lot of async comms can fill this gap. But every once in a while, just given how fast things are moving and how quickly we can get off track with just a very small misalignment, even daily synchronous communication may be necessary to maintain confidence in a fast-moving environment. So, this is all up to our individual judgment. What makes sense given a certain circumstance is up to you. So that's confidence is earned. There's a lot more in the memo. Highly recommend digging into it. And thanks everybody for working on this one. All right, main thing, level shows you how food affects your health. No changes here. We're all marching towards this. If you feel you're misaligned on this priority, definitely raise that. Top objectives: member retention, new member acquisition, and member health improvement. And I'm going to hand it off to Sonia.
Awesome. Thank you. Happy first week of Q4, everyone. So to restate kind of our objectives of acquisition and retention in a different way, it is build a product that people want, sell it, and do so while keeping the lights on. And you can see how all of our groups really align to these areas. And the first part of this process is building a product that people want, which is why product market fit is the focus right now and why product is our top priority for this quarter. So if you go to the next slide for me, please, Josh, just like our tagline that we hear every week, that level shows you how food affects your health, to create clarity across the team, each group has created its own tagline here. So the goal is that you can understand and remember these just as you do the levels tagline. So for product, build a delightful and sticky product that help our members improve their health. And over the next few weeks, you'll hear a spotlight on each of these groups. And this week we will start with product. So I'll pass it over to Maz.
Thanks, Sonia. All right, this is basically Buzz trying to explain to Woody that don't worry. And Woody looks really skeptical about this OKR process, but we're going to go through it today. Hopefully it'll be Buzz and not Woody. So Let's do it. Okay, so just going back to the tagline, why did we pick this tagline? It's the three concepts that we have in our company objective. So obviously we want a product that's delightful, that people want and want to buy. We want people to use it for a long time. We want it to be sticky. We don't want to be a gadget where somebody uses it for a couple of weeks or a month, or maybe 2 months, and then just moves on. We want it to be part of their life, part of their metabolic health, and really be that trusted partner that will be there for a long time. And obviously, this is all for naught if we can improve people's health. So all of this is in the service of creating value for people and improving their health. Next slide, please. We picked 6 OKRs for product org, which is product design and engineering. And really what we try to do is split the things that are here and now on the rails and add things that will create a fast engine that will help us find product market fit faster. So that's kind of how at the high level we thought about this. If you look at the first 4, which is content, logging, glucose variability, and labs, it is really the foundational rails to make sure that we can educate people, create content that will help people improve their health, enable them to log really fast, frictionless, so we have the opportunity to give them personalized feedback and information so they can improve glucose variability, which is the core of our biofeedback today, to be able to see that variability is going down and will lead to better health outcomes, whether it's quality of life or health metrics, which we'll get into. And then finally, the blood panel, which we want people to use more of it. We want it to be part of the core experience, because this creates another lens on people's health. And it's really tied to the North Star metrics, which is my health actually improving? Is my underlying health actually improving in addition to the quality of life? And then the last 2, we really want to be able to iterate, experiment fast. We are in the pre-market of product market fit stage. So we need to be able to make as many bets, obviously all thought out and strategic and work in a system, but we need to be able to iterate fast and not be sitting in our offices, dreaming up solutions for months at a time, and then find out that nobody wants it. So this enables us to actually do that quickly from a design and product perspective. And we want to be able to focus our stuff, our engineer, which is really the engine of the company, on being able to accelerate what customers care about and not spend our time either bike shedding or working on stuff that's good for us internally, but our customers don't care about. So these are kind of the overall how we got to these metrics. So if you go to the next slide, please. Okay, where are we on these metrics? And we'll go through each of these one by one. But right now we're on track for 3, and we're slightly off track for 3. And part of the off trackness is because we haven't been thinking about these OKRs, these work streams in terms of OKR. And this is why I think OKR are going to be so powerful. This is why I think Buzz is right. He's excited about OKRs because it really puts the focus on what matters in a quantitative and qualitative way versus going to work every day and trying the best that you can and not knowing how does that add up to actually the success criteria for these things. So we can jump into each one of these. Next slide, please. Okay, so the quality and quantity of content, we feel pretty good about this one. I think there's a lot of work that's being done. Big thank you to the team on this one. I think everybody's come together. Big thank you to Mike D. Big thank you to Casey, Haney, everybody, really. This is really a company-wide effort, and we have been producing actually more than 15 per month. I mean, I think can keep that up and even do better. So I think we feel pretty good about this one. The next one is interesting. So when we looked at all of our content in the app before we kicked off the event-based insights, it was around the click rate of people opening and reading it was around 15 to 25% was kind of our average of insights. And now we've built a dashboard in Snowflake that we can actually see these insights, and it's somewhere in the order of 35 to 55%. So it is quite encouraging that A, it shows that the content is good, and B, actually gives it to people when it's the right time, and C, it uses the behavior change paradigms, which make it engaging, make it actionable, and make it rewarding. And also we're seeing a lot of people, 80 to 90% of people are clicking on that learn more, which is actually amazing, which means that they enjoy the content and they want to learn more. And then they go into either a short form video, like a reel, a long form article, the great work that Hanian is doing, and more types of things that we're providing. For example, some of the swaps now link to an Amazon or Whole Foods dashboard, which basically they can add the swap now directly into their cart. So we're making the content in a way that we think people want it and can actually action on it, and we'll find it rewarding. So anyways, the data is good now, and we'll continue to make improvements and push this forward. So overall, feel pretty good about this. Again, content is the lifeblood of our app, and it will help us retain people and improve their health. Next slide, please. Okay, increased logging. So we've done a lot on logging. We've simplified it. We made it fast. If you haven't used it yet, the fast logging where you hold down the log button and the camera pops up is awesome. I love it. I don't know if you guys played with it. Love to hear feedback on that one. And if you want to add voice, there's actually an iOS, at least within iOS, there is a built-in iOS feature where you can hit the microphone and you could actually spell out what you ate in the normal tagging. So basically with 2 taps, you can log now. And if you want to use voice feature, you can on the at least iOS keyboard feature where you can hit the voice and you can just say what you ate, and it's pretty good. So logging, we've been doing a lot of work to simplify, make it fast, and also make it responsive based on the event-based insights. And we're not quite at 85 yet, but we feel pretty good. We're at 80% for people in their first month. So feel pretty good about this one. And again, what does this matter? It allows us to give people the content in a way that's personalized and the way they will action on it. Next slide, please. Okay, improved glucose variability. This is one of the cases of we haven't, I mean, we want to improve people's variability. This is, or glucose control. This is the goal of the app, but we haven't really instrumented it in a structured and in a structured way where we can actually track to see. So the team has been the data science team, and big thanks to Jinlu, have been running some analysis now to see how our members' glucose variability doing, and we're using several metrics. We're looking at number of spikes, duration of spikes, height of spikes, and the early data shows that there is improvement. It's not quite 25%, but there is some improvement, and this is something we haven't measured before. We are going to start measuring it, and also a lot of the features that are coming out is going to create a structure for people to achieve this, whether it's through levels, whether it's through the metabolic day score. It's a lot of work going on here to make sure that we actually do, in fact, reduce variability. And also there's a lot of work to going into, thanks to the research team, is what does reduce variability on the day-to-day and the CGM mean on our long-term North Star metrics. So there's work going on here. We haven't fully gotten there yet, but is one of the things that we're thinking about, and we'll make progress. And hopefully in the next few weeks, this will be on track. Next one, please. Blood panel, one of the favorites. So a lot of work has been going on into this, and there are 2 aspects of it. The aspect of working with our advisors, big thanks to Rob. We had a great session with him this week. It was really fantastic, really opened our mind into how we can create a product that will help people and people want, hopefully. So big thanks to him. A big thanks to Cosima. She's been really trying to think through this in a way that will be delightful. And big thanks to Victor for really creating designs that look phenomenal. The thing that's off track here is really around our fulfillment of labs. So as you all know, we're going through a reconsideration of our suppliers on this, who's actually going to do the labs, who's going to do the phlebotomy. So there's a lot of work going on in there, which the team, Matt, Cosima, and JM have really been leading with the help from Chris. So big thank you to everybody, but we're not quite out of the woods there. So I think this will move to on track when we have a firm plan that the new vendors will be back on track. So I think I'm not worried about it. It's just work that has to be done, and the team is on it and really executing really, really well, and being really thoughtful about how do we build it in a way that it's more robust, but at the same time does not add complexity. Obviously, one of our number one objectives is not add complexity at this stage in the company. Complexity will slow us down and will bloat our headcount. So one of the big priorities is not increase complexity, but at the same time create a robust system that we can rely on. On the numbers here, we really want to take 10% penetration or more in our labs. Right now, it's around 4 or 5% of people are getting labs. And then we want people to do multiple labs because it's the trajectory of their health and how I check on their health. There's a lot of work going on here, both in terms of quality of our labs, in terms of integration, and in terms of cost. So we hope to actually make 5% of people or more redo labs, which is about 50% of our penetration. Next slide, please. Okay, so what is product market fit? There are many definitions, but the definition I love the most is when so many people are banging on your door that you are struggling to keep up. Really, that's the simplest way to describe it. And obviously, our growth has been really fantastic, and we're heading towards this direction. I think we're on track on the concept of the engine of how do we do that, really having high velocity of creating versions of app that's released to customers. This is the whole shift from really spending the whole time on creating the whole experience in one go versus really doing the skateboard where we do the thing that is a full thought, but then build on it through dot releases. And I think that's worked really well. And we're well on track on having 80% of our releases be really around 5 weeks. Obviously, the big rethinks, like when we switch to the ring, that takes a lot more work because there's a lot of the system that you have to rethink. It's a fundamental shift, and we were okay with that. And that's really part of the 20% that needs a lot more thought, will take longer, and that's okay. But in terms of how do we actually rev these and improve it, we really want to be nimble and get feedback so we can get the product market faster. Next one, please. And I think the last one. All right. Engineering. So we want our engineers to focus 60% or more of our time on having direct customer impact here. So these are features that people see, feel, and love. And so we really want to make sure that 60% or more are here. And then 40% or less is really on the internal stuff, whether it's QA, infrastructure, internal tools, and things that the customers don't directly benefit from. The reason for this is, again, tied to product market fit. If we're working on a lot of internal stuff, for example, let's say we spend all of our time creating beautiful tooling internally, but don't have features that people want, we're just not going to have the results that we want. It's more akin to, we're currently in the exploration phase. In the exploration phase, you want to have you want to experiment a lot with customer features. In the exploitation phase, where we have a lot of customers, imagine if we had 10 million customers, then it's really important to make sure our internal tools infrastructure is really robust. And so the focus can shift in the future, but for now, it's really important that we keep more than 60% of our engineering resources on building an experience that people want. And why is it off track? It's mainly due to one project. It's the e-commerce project that we all went into it with expectation to make the system a lot more robust and scalable, given that it was a lot of things, a lot of tech that we had taken on to move fast, but redo it. We went through a very detailed exercise to break down this into phases and define what is and isn't necessary. And so I think we're getting on track here. I'm really confident that e-commerce is looking up and we can deliver it in a phased approach. So hopefully this will go on track. But the main reason this is off track is because of the e-commerce projects taking a large chunk of our backend engineering to redo it. It's necessary change that we need to make as we go into multiple geos, multiple product SKUs, different lab, different vendors. So it's necessary, but it's hopefully on track to be done and phased out so that we don't spend a ton of engineering resources on that, past the month of November. I think that's it. Hopefully that was helpful.
Great dive. Super helpful. And I think we transition straight into David.
Actually, I'm going to do the first slide and then pass it on to the respective folks.
Cool.
All right. Next slide, please. It's funny how it's back to back this week. Okay, so what are we working on? Levels, really fantastic progress. We spent a lot of time at Assemblage working together and with Casey. Big thank you. Can't thank Casey enough for really helping us think through some of the interventions. She created a map of everything from customer need to physiology to intervention and then cellular path. It was just a work of art. So thank you, Casey. That will really help us shape this experience in a way that is science-based. People want to use it. It's learning by doing. It was just one of the highlights of assemblage for me. So thank you for that. And obviously big thank you to David and Alan for really pushing the envelope on this one. And they're just a machine. Anything from creating simulators to see how points can be awarded in a way that feels right, to creating experiences that is very thoughtful and layered. So really impressed here, and hopefully you guys all get to see the next rev when we're ready to share the version. There is UX are happening this week and maybe early next week, so we'll update it based on that feedback, but really good progress there. That was 1.1 and 2.0, great work going on. We talked about that. We're continuing to push there. In-app content, again, really good momentum. Thanks for the team, Jen, Haley, and Caitlin to jump in and really offering to help here to not only increase our velocity, but increase our quality. So this is really fantastic. And then Stacy's working with Mallory to create the videos. The first video should be ready soon. So really optimistic on this plan. And then we're talking to figure out how can we actually create a media platform that we can use potentially in the app, inside the app with Ben and his team. So really, really bullish on this and looking forward to see how that shakes out. Metabolic score, David, I believe will talk more about this, but this is the idea of bringing back a version of metabolic score that will be a supplement to our ring stability and spikes, which really help people figure out day to day how they're doing. David's going to talk to that, and it's ready for internal testing. Personalization, a lot of good work last week at assemblage as well. We talked through this. How can we actually phase this out and start simple and add more features in the future? So that's great. Celebrations, this is the idea of being able to see visual feedback when you do things that are positive. And then finally, commerce, this is the idea of integrating with other platforms to help people change their pantry and their environment, but also increase their ability to find things that is metabolically positive. So with that, I'll turn it over to, I believe, David.
I think so. Yeah, and just before we get into this, Stacy informed me that the second Mallory video is ready and it's pretty good. So she's going to drop an update in threads after the forum, so you can take a look at that. I wanted to give you a quick update on one of the projects, which is, as Maz alluded to, the metabolic score variant, which we've been calling the scoring abstraction in the past. And the reason we are thinking about this is just to remind us, based on the feedback we heard from our members when we rolled out the stability ring, they love the stability ring and how understandable it is, and how spike detection really makes it obvious where their opportunities are and how encouraging that is. But one of the things they missed about the metabolic score was the trending day over day. They could very easily visually glance how a day was in my data and see compare back and forth how good or bad that day was compared to other days. And so we've been working across data and the backend engineering team and design to figure out a new, could we bring back something that helps us see the day over day trending, a quick way to grok, was our day good or bad visually, but also not promote it back to the same level that it used to be. And also it has to be super explainable. So the model we came out with was using a score based on standard deviation, which is basically variability that can be very easily mapped and explained using the stability ring, the spike detection, et cetera. So what our ask to you is that this is now actually ready for testing. If you go and update your apps, you can click to my data, and then you can swap down in the metrics selector, just choose day score. And there is actually, Josh, can you refresh this? There's a link here to a survey. Yeah, sweet. So you can take a look at it on your data. I want to let you know that we tried to spend as minimal amount of time as possible on this so far. So even though it kind of looks designed, it's actually not designed. What we're asking you to do is take a look at the number and tell us, does this number feel accurate based on how your stability was for the day? Does it feel too easy? Is it too hard? Is it just about right? And let us know in that survey link below. I'll send that on threads as well, but levels.link/score-test. And give us some feedback. Does the score seem reasonable for you? Based on that, we're going to go ahead and incorporate it more intentionally into the app. what we want to do is, like, right in these screenshots, you're going to see it looks like the old metabolic score treatment, but we want to incorporate it in such a way that it's married to the spike time, the stability, spike count, things like that. And we'll figure out a way that it holistically kind of wraps up. So yeah, take a look. There's a video demo in there as well that reminds you kind of what to look for. And we're really looking forward to this. This was really kicked off by member feedback. So a huge shout out to our members for testing out the stability ring. That's it.
Awesome. Thank you.
Hey folks, a quick one today. The next slide, please. So yeah, as mentioned, the dashboard is getting some updates. We are preparing for levels, which is going to require some restructuring of the homepage. And one specific point that we've heard in response to user feedback was they're sometimes missing the list of insights at the bottom. So we want to make sure, we've got that little chip. That's probably not quite enough. This slide is sort of cropped off, but for most phones, by moving the text that we have below the ring into the ring, we should gain back some precious vertical space. People will be able to see larger graph and see more insights dropping in below. So that's a nice big change, but also you're going to have glucose in the top. That was another request from users. We're going to give it a try. We're going to see how that feels. There'll be a little toggle and you can tap on the ring and it'll transition to glucose, and that'll persist. And if new things come in, little rewards or state changes like you're spiking or crashing or recovering, then it'll transition quickly to that and go back to whatever your preference was set. So we hope that also satisfies some of our members. Yeah, happy to see that go out. Next slide, please. Oh wait, some more examples. Yes, in the middle, you've got an example of having the text in the ring with it spiking. There'll be a version on the right there, earning some stable time. I've got a nice little transition and then a little toggle on the left. You can keep, you want to keep the stable ring for many people, but if they want to switch back and forth, they can with a little tap. Yeah, and that's it. Next slide, please. And I think some of this has been covered before, but I'm just so excited about it and it's looking so great. So I want to bring it forward again. Labs 2.0, the visual design is being iterated on by Victor. It's looking really good. We're going to see a line graph so you can show historical change. We have some prompts there on how to improve your results and even just getting you to do it again. We know that's going to be important to see that change. And so we want to create sort of a long running relationship with people and plotting out, the work that they're doing every day against their overall metabolic health through results, through the test results. Next slide. So some more examples of that. I think one nice thing here also is that Victor's hard work on the design system is starting to propagate. And so we're going to start seeing some of these refreshes in terms of like typography and color and design treatments. So the app is starting to feel a bit fresher, a little bit cleaner, and overall just more together and taken care of, which of course we're really excited about. And so that's it for design. Next week, maybe levels.
Something that stands out here to me is just the beautiful spectrum on these ranges, which we all know these are not demarcated, buckets that you fall into. It's this is a spectrum, and so the visuals here really support, I think, what the educational material is describing. Love it. Thanks, team. Right, we've got
quick PSA that the UK closed beta retro is out, so anyone wants to check it out, it's in the product and design forum.
Yes, and actually something that I didn't get it into the main page, but the UK beta, the first 140 invites I think went out to the wait list this morning. So that's a big milestone that should have been mentioned. All right, over to Dan, who's going to dig into the algorithm.
Yeah, thanks, Josh. Hey, team. Happy Friday. I'm here today to talk about a concept known as the algorithm and why it's important to what we're building here at Levels. So in short, the algorithm refers to the 5 steps listed on the slide used in the context of developing new products or technologies. So it's best to view each of these 5 steps not as a literal business process, but more as a mindset that begins by acknowledging that true innovation only occurs when previous assumptions are challenged. So step 1, make the requirements less dumb. Said another way, challenge the requirement, challenge the assumption. For our company, in the context of levels, our mission is to solve the metabolic health crisis. This fundamentally challenges the assumption that metabolic health overall is not in a crisis state. Our proposed solution to this problem is providing individuals data insights to better understand how food affects their health. And the status quo assumption made by many elements of the healthcare industry is that certain diseases are unavoidable, that reactive treatment is the priority for innovation. We obviously disagree with that assumption as a fundamental aspect of our mission. So when you hear make the requirements less dumb, just think of this analogy. Step 2, delete the part or process step. The best part is no part. The best process is no process. I've heard this 1,000 times at SpaceX. This is not meant as an excuse for laziness. In fact, if we relate this back directly to that analogy I just made, you do not need medication to treat a disease that could otherwise be prevented by changing your diet or lifestyle. The best medication is no medication. Step 3, optimize. This is where most people start. You have a baseline, you work to improve it. That's all well and good, assuming you've completed steps 1 and 2. I'm sure all of us can think of examples where we spent time or have known very smart people around us who have worked tirelessly to optimize a process, only to find out that the thing they optimized was not needed and should have just been deleted in the first place. So don't fall into this trap, descope before you optimize. Step 4, accelerate. Moving faster can feel reckless or chaotic at times. Accelerating something requires an increasingly strong force to be applied. Otherwise, that thing will slow to a stop over time. Being that increasingly strong force can definitely feel uncomfortable, and that's okay. To reinforce a few of our other cultural values, take the big swings, don't ask how you can help, just help. Use your best judgment. We trust you. Step 5, automate. This is an increasingly popular term, as Zach pointed out a few weeks ago in this forum. To make yourself obsolete often requires some amount of automation, and automations are not easy to implement. The key here is to make sure that you remember automation is the last step in the process, not the first. Worse than optimizing something that should not exist is automating something that should not exist. This only compounds complexity over time and makes it more difficult to be agile. So lastly, I include this visual representation of the algorithm on the right, showing a development version of the Raptor engine on the left and a production version of the engine, of the same engine on the right. You can clearly see the production version of the engine is visually more simple, where numerous parts and processes have been deleted. The deletions here were primarily achieved by challenging fundamental assumptions and requirements about what was physically possible for the design. The production version of this engine ended up being orders of magnitude less expensive to build and operate, and actually had better performance metrics on thrust and reliability. So just to recap, we're leveraging the algorithm all over levels every day, even if maybe we don't realize it. All of us should try to put ourselves into the state of mind where challenging the status quo becomes comfortable, because that's inherently what our company mission is all about. If you haven't read the memo on this topic, there is a memo on this. Read it. If you have read it, great. Read it again. That's all from me. Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks, Dan. I love abstracting this concept and just applying it everywhere, even in one's own personal life, which I've started to increasingly think about as well. So yeah, I love it. Love the visuals. Appreciate that. Quick hiring updates here. So Priya, and as I mentioned at the top, and Ms., if you want to jump in and add more, please do. But Nicole Miller has agreed to join us as our people operations generalist starting October 17th, the same date that Priya is joining. Super stoked for both of those. Ms., I'll let you add a little color if you'd like.
Yeah, I threw in a loom into threads, so plenty of context there. Just to give some background on the welcome video thread.
Perfect. All right, excited for that. You'll see our roles have been updated here as we've removed the people ops role, still looking for R&D engineering, and of course, software backend and mobile. And always looking for general culture and role fits. Please reach out if you're interested in joining us here at Levels. All right, made it to the individual contributions. We've got a couple minutes here. I'm gonna stop the share. Remember, we run these by using the raise the hand reaction like this. I'll go ahead and kick us off. I am professionally excited for just product and design and eng. Those three like core elements of our business just humming along. And yeah, that dive today on the OKRs and kind of seeing it all line up into an execution plan is really exciting. So yeah, stoked there. Personally, gonna go to Austin City Limits this afternoon, our first like real Austin event that we've done in a while, and yeah, looking forward to it. Sam.
For me, I'd kind of say it's sort of both personal and professional. Yesterday, I spent a good chunk of the day playing around with DALL-E 2 from OpenAI and Stable Diffusion, which is an open library for it. And it's really cool. It's I'm curious to see with a little bit more effort if we could 10x the amount of content we're able to produce in a really high quality. So just an interesting exploration. I'll probably have more to share on that later.
Love it. Andrew.
Yeah, I want to give a quick professional excitement for Jinlu being back. She's been picking up a ton of just like really high value things just to improve everywhere, you know, across the code base. And so I'm just incredibly happy that she's back and contributing with gusto. It's really exciting.
100%. Welcome back, Shinlu. All right. Anyone interested in a share? I will say that I'm also quite excited about the comms tool that is rolling out. We've migrated the R&D team over, and yeah, it's I can see the light at the end of the tunnel in some ways. Obviously, there's room to continue to improve. It will be an experiment, but the performance and the consolidation of notifications by priority is really exciting. Taylor.
Hey, just wanted to say a quick thanks. I wasn't able to make the forum last week, so I want to say thanks for the thanks. And also, I know a lot of people probably talked about it last week, but farm assemblage was amazing, and just wanted to give Chris another shout out. Being able to walk out on Glacier National Park was fantastic, and the whole way that he organized it, I was just blown away. So thanks again, Chris. Made for an awesome week last week.
Yeah, pictures looked incredible. Miz.
Keeping us on our toes here with these last minute hands. Just keeping the kudos going, I guess, to Chris, Kozma, JM, Maz, and a handful of people that I'm missing. A lot of these kind of true pill scattering has been very interesting, but we're firing on all cylinders to get it right. And so I think we have a huge relief that the pendulum came back a little bit on some of our initial expectations, but we'll be stronger in the long run with a lot of the projects that are running. So thanks to everyone that's hustling on that. I know these rushes aren't fun, but it's been cool to see the team come together. And then on the personal side, was kind of traveling the last few weeks for Jewish holidays and conference, got to see some people in Austin, which I very much enjoyed, and I'm equally as happy to be home.
Yeah, we didn't get a picture of the Austin meetup this week, but we did have one of those. Yeah, ditto. Seeing we had a bit of a startle last week, and just seeing the team kind of like quickly shoot out of the blocks and address it was pretty awesome. It's good to stay on our toes. We're still scrappy, and it's good to feel that confidence. All right, Oz.
I just wanted to add to that. When the news came out, I think it was Thursday, and we were obviously there, and Chris was calm as a cucumber. I mean, I've never seen anything like it. He's just so professional. And while he's managing, 20 people at his farm and all the craziness, we just had the most logical, straightforward conversation about it. And he followed up on everything. I'm just super amazed. one, like big thanks, obviously, farm assemblage is a big effort, and I think everybody pitched in, but like Chris took the burden of it, and then handling this in parallel to that was just really amazing to see. And he was so generous with everything. He lent his car to us while we were there, so we can go into the park. I mean, who does that? It's just, you know, the quality of character is just off the charts. So big thank you to Chris. And obviously seeing everybody is just fantastic. I think taking the opportunity to celebrate these rare moments where we're together was just amazing. I think just seeing people, John was there, for example, from Colombia. I think there's only a handful of times that he's been here, just happened to be in the US and enjoyed. I mean, these things are super valuable. And just being able to manage it with obviously the strong async culture that we have is going to be critical. But I just thought the team, that it was just an amazing experience. And, you know, big thanks to Chris that made it all happen. And then obviously people pitched in, like Sissy made it all happen on Saturday. I don't know how she did, but she also made the hikes possible. So anyways, really fantastic. Just wanted to add.
Huge. Thanks, Chris. Rebecca.
I'm just going to echo that. Farm assemblage was amazing. I never would have guessed that just after a few months of working here, I would have an opportunity to meet so many of the team members. I remember when I first started looking at the company bingo, thinking like, oh, I don't live near New York. Oh, I'm probably not going to meet these people that soon. And then here I am. Now I've met most of the team. So that was really amazing, and feeling a lot of gratitude for that. And thanks to Chris and Sissy for planning all the hikes. It was really an incredible experience.
Amazing. Ms.
Yeah, I'll add a quick note on the assemblage, farm assemblage bit. A lot of really helpful learnings coming out of this. I think this is the first kind of large meetup that we had, separate from the Austin one early in the spring. So I think we're going to take back to our notes and figure out how to move forward, what this looks like in a virtual environment, what it looks like if we do in-person meetups in the future, and how they coexist. And so, yeah, a lot of learnings all around. Thanks to everyone that attended the virtual assemblage events. Pumped for everyone that got the in-person time as well. And we'll figure out kind of what our strategy is for the long term. But this was very helpful to learn from, and I'm happy that it was as productive and enriching as it was for everyone.
Experiments. All right. Looks like we got a couple minutes back, which I was skeptical of considering how action-packed today's meeting was. Go have a great weekend. Thanks, everybody. And remember the algorithm.